are you, Jeff?
Good, Rich. How's everything?
I'm doing fine. Let me just hit you up with a couple of thoughts that I had on yesterday's game, and you tell me what you think. I thought just watching yesterday's game that the Spurs, this year's Spurs, would have beaten last year's Warriors minus Durant by double digits yesterday. What do you think of that? 2 cents, Jeff.
This year's Spurs would have been beaten last year's Warriors yesterday by double digits. Is that what you said?
Minus Durant. If Durant wasn't on to create this super team.
Well, I agree with that, and I think they would have won by double digits yesterday if Leonard hadn't gone down.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny, the coverage. I was reading a USA Today article, and they didn't get to the Leonard injury until, like, the second page of the article. And to me, that would have been the first line. Despite Curry coming out in the third quarter and starting to roll, San Antonio had actually expanded their lead to 23 when Leonard went down. And so I was surprised. I mean, people are making this more about the comeback, which was a great comeback, but they're making more of the comeback than they are the injury that led to the comeback.
Yeah, and then the Pachulia play. I know you said during the game that you thought this should be a flagrant foul. Do you think it was dirty, that the Pachulia play was dirty, Jeff?
Well, dirty, you have to be in the player's head because that's all about intent. Flagrant fouls are not about intent. They're about the action. And I believe the flagrant foul is to prevent dangerous plays. Most people consider that when guys are up in the air and somebody hits them in the head, or an errant elbow that hits a guy above the shoulders. This is every bit as dangerous. It was the factor in the game yesterday. Not one of the factors, the factor in the game yesterday. And somehow, whether it's flagrant fouls, it's ejections, it's a fine after the fact, these dangerous plays have to be taken away from the game. And it happens more and more. You know, Bruce Bowen of the Spurs got a lot of headlines for it back in the day. With the amount of jump shooting that's happening in our game today due to the three-point line, and these people, the players who are contesting, but they're sort of lunging at the shooter, it's not a rare occurrence anymore that this happened. It's too often. And so I would never say Pachulia was dirty, but the play is dangerous, and it has to be legislated out of our game.
Jeff Van Gundy joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. Then I guess let me rephrase this, that even with – look, Durant was a difference maker is really where I'm going with this. You know, that here's this – that we saw for the first time yesterday in the playoffs, the super team as constituted was the difference maker. That Durant is just such a remarkable all-time great player that adding him to this mix was the difference. That even with Leonard, I guess, out, the Spurs might have beaten last year's Warriors team without Durant. You don't think so?
No chance. Leonard is let's not get carried away with the Rockets win. That was an aberration without Leonard. Listen, they're down their two best playmakers in Leonard now and Parker, right? So there's no chance that this team would have beaten last year's Warriors team without Leonard. With Durant yesterday and Leonard, the Spurs, to me, win going away by the way they played. I still think the Warriors would win the series, but San Antonio was great yesterday. I thought the Warriors had, they were sluggish, lethargic early, out of sorts with the ball. You know, they turned the ball over so much and had, in the previous two series, done a great job in not turning the ball over. So, listen, the one factor yesterday, as great as Durant is and as great as Curry played in the second half, the one factor yesterday was Leonard's injury.
So what happened, I guess, is the essential a reporter asked Popovich, that your team looked rattled, and then Popovich was like, really? Did you really all come up with that by yourself, essentially, is what he said. What did happen with you in the room when you saw that 18-0 run yesterday, Jeff?
Well, Leonard goes out, no Parker, and they don't have guys who can now break a defense down off the dribble. And if you're just going to try to pass the ball side to side in today's NBA without anybody who can go off the dribble and create a play, you're going to really struggle, because the Warriors knew that they didn't have anybody that could consistently beat them off the dribble. Their ball pressure increased. Their level of aggression increased. Their urgency was upped, and they played, terrific basketball over those last, 20 minutes of the game, and found a way to win. And so, obviously, a great miracle, for them, devastating loss for the Spurs, and an unfortunate set of circumstances that led to both outcomes.
Now, obviously, you're not a doctor. You don't play one on TV, but just taking a look at the large amount of days off between games 2 and 3, even with the possibility of falling into an 0-2 hole, do you think that Kawhi will sit out game 2 just because you can get him almost darn near a full week's worth of rest, Jeff?
Well, I think it's a similar situation to the Houston series. A day off in between games, they chose to sit him because if Houston had won Game 6 in Houston, they would have had Friday and Saturday off and played a Sunday game. I think the temptation will be the same. The big difference, obviously, is where the series stands. They're down 0-1 without Leonard. You would suspect they would be down 0-2, and they would be obviously in a big hole. But I think that's the more likely scenario, is that he sits out tomorrow's game and tries it again next Saturday.
And then just one more question on this before I hit the Eastern Conference with you. What were the Spurs doing with Kawhi Leonard in the game that proved so successful against the super team Warriors to take a 20-point lead in the first half that you think could be repeatable should Leonard be healthy?
Well, I think the Warriors I think the Spurs played great. I think the Warriors contributed because of the layoff to their own demise with the turnovers, some very makeable shots that they missed free throws. But I think what San Antonio did well was they were able to create good shots, and a lot of it was the play of Leonard. Pick and roll game, he made some great plays for himself, for his teammates. Aldridge got off to another good start. Their defense forced turnovers, which got him some good transition opportunities. The dunk by Aldridge at the end of the first. And so they did a lot of great things. I think the one repeatable thing they can do is continue to rebound the ball. Unfortunately, when they were up 3 under 2 minutes, fighting for their lives, they gave up 2 consecutive long rebounds on the same possession that led to the game-tying 3 by Curry. Mm-hmm. And so, but the rebounding is going to have to be consistent. They're going to have to handle the ball better than the Warriors. Because, listen, the Warriors they just didn't play well in the first half, and a golden opportunity was lost.
What do you think happens tonight in Boston, Jeff?
I think Boston will figure out a way to win. I like their team. I think their depth is great. I think the starting lineup of Washington is outstanding, but their depth isn't quite as good. I think the guard play of Washington is going to have to be really good throughout the course of the game. They can't lose ground like they do when they go to their bench right now. So their bench is for one game going to have to hold its own. And then they cannot turn it over / give up transition baskets. They're going to have to make sure they make Boston play in the half court. And then Boston, Isaiah Thomas is going to have to be not necessarily their leading scorer, but he's going to have to be very efficient on offense. If they double team him, he's got to move the ball. out. And then a lot of it is going to come down to, Rich, making or missing the three-point shot. Boston's a better three-point shooting team overall, but in a one-game scenario, if Washington can step up and make double-digit threes, they'll have a great chance to win a road game.
Last one for you, Jeff. Couldn't help but notice in your excellent broadcast yesterday, Steve Kerr spoke to the team at halftime, down 20. Did you see him? How's he doing?
I did not see him. I do text with him from time to time. I feel awful, because my parents told me as I was growing up, if you have your health, you have everything. And you sort of just dismiss that notion because you are healthy. Steve Kerr, I believe, would trade the championship they won and the last two great seasons they've had to be back and healthy and feel good. So I feel for he and his family. I think in a tough situation for him, he's done something that's very important for all coaches, is he didn't try to keep going despite the pain. He did it for a long period of time, and then he said, enough is enough. I've got to try to find solutions now, even though it's inconvenient for my job. And I think all coaches should pay heed to that. There's nothing worth worsening your health for, particularly any job. And so I think he set a great example for other coaches. I hope he gets, healthy. I hope he feels better sooner rather than later. But hopefully he can get some clarity on this situation, because I know it's been an absolutely miserable 2 years.
Jeff, thanks for the call. Hope to speak to you sooner rather than later. Appreciate it.
You got it.
You got it. That's Jeff Van Gundy.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on radio stations across the country and audience.
If you like that, please download our app. There's lots of fun things there other than just more of the videos you just saw. You can call us from the app. You can email us from the app. Just download it. Trust me, you'll enjoy it.